Action. All right, insert banter here. Hey, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning.
Yeah, very good, amazing. I mean, it's been a long, fun Saturday. So did a lot of interesting things with the kids and also, and yeah, now looking forward to being on the podcast and speaking with all of you wonderful folks.
Right
Awesome.
on. Oh, I said good morning, and I've been correcting her all day. I'm like, no, wait, it's night for him. Like, did you get to do anything fun this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, because actually the next weekend I'm heading out to DEF CON and Black Hat. I heard you guys might be there as well, right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely say hi to us. So this weekend is, all about the kids, making sure because they won't get to see me for the next 3 weeks.
Oh.
So I just asked my sons, where do you want to go, and just took them out, and that's about it. Just trying to be a good dad this weekend.
Aw, that's awesome. You had mentioned that you're thinking about moving back to the Bay Area. Have they ever been?
Yeah, they were actually born there.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah. So I mean, interestingly, we when we moved, they were pretty young. So now they have a little bit of identity crisis, right? Because they're thinking, hey, are we Indian, American, Singaporean? Because they were born there, so they're US citizens by birth. So
Oh, you have fun with that. That sounds like a journey for sure. Okay, so do you know what's about to happen before we start asking you the legitimately good questions that people come here for?
no, I don't.
Hey, so what kind of music do you like to listen to?
It's been a while actually, to be honest. I mean, there's a little bit of course, Indian music and all of that, but I definitely do enjoy a lot of rap. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Snoop Dogg and a bunch of the guys, like, back in the day when I was a little bit younger, that was something like Dr. Dre and all. Yeah. But
Okay.
I can't sing to save my life if that's what's
Okay, well that's fair. So we're gonna play a game called That's My Jam 90s R&B. So yeah, so let's see how that goes. Here are the rules. We're gonna play 4 songs. They're covers, copyright purposes. We're gonna play 4 covers of 90s R&B songs, and you have until the end of the song to guess either the name of the artist or the name of the song. If you can guess both,
Okay, it's gonna be difficult.
yes. If you can guess both,
try.
it's a total flex. If you only guess one, it's fine. Points are still the same. And yeah, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it. Anthony, song number 1.
Here we are face to face with the memories that can't be erased. Although we need each other, things have changed. It's not the same.
No?
No.
Okay. Tiffany, would you
Sometimes
like to
it
go
makes
ahead and
me
let this man know who this
wonder.
is? She clearly knows.
Where would I be?
You gonna tell him? This is Monica before you walk out of my life. Is it before I walk out or before you walk out? Oh, no, wait, hold on. Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so this is Monica before you walk out of my life. And by the way, it's okay if you get 0. You're amongst good
I
company.
think let's go.
All right, song number 2.
Boy, you should know that I've got you on my
Go off, Anthony.
mind. Your secret admirer. I've been watching you at
Is it
night.
Backstreet Boys? I don't think so.
Yes, no. This one is My Boo by, who is it? To be honest, we didn't know these either. We're not gonna lie to you.
I'm like,
We
I
didn't
know the song. I just don't
Yeah.
remember her name.
This
Yeah.
is by Ghost Town DJs. My Boo by
Okay.
Ghost. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's
No
cool.
way I was going to get that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
This one was a
Same.
long time
Song
back.
number 3.
We are lovers through and through, and though we made it through the storm, I really want you to realize, I really want to put you
No.
on. I've been
Okay, all right. It's okay. This
Mary
one,
J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige, Real Love. All right, we got one more. Song number 4. You got one more chance.
Okay. How many people have scored 0 out of 4 so
A
far?
lot.
Am I the first
A
one?
lot.
number.
Several.
Me some
We
comfort.
had one gentleman just come with like a list of 30 random R&B artists, and he was like, "I'm just gonna guess," and he's on this list, so it's fine. All right, song number 4.
You know it's true as trees are tall.
Yeah, I would have never. We ain't
All
even got to
the
play this
leaves
one all the
do
way through.
fall.
This one is
Oh,
Zero,
it
0 out of 4.
sometimes rains in
Still a Friend of Mine by Incognito. Nobody in this room knew who that
Yep.
was.
No. No.
Awesome. Well,
You're
it's
a great.
okay.
Yeah. You're a great sport. So awesome.
Yeah. 0 out of 4. You're amongst good company. It's all good.
Is it okay? What percentage of folks are 0 out of 4?
Ooh, math. Wait, look, stats on stats. What's the stats on that? Probably, I would say, probably like what, 30, 40% if we had to guess?
30,
Yeah,
40%.
about 30,
Okay,
40.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30, 40%. Awesome.
That's
Well,
comforting.
shout out to Guyana. Go follow her at Destination Guyana. She provides the vocals for That's My Jam 90s R&B edition. Okay, now let's switch gears. Let's get into the reason people are actually here. If it's your first time, welcome. If you already know the vibes, welcome back. I'm Jordan, a.k.a. Jay, a.k.a. The Chosen One, a.k.a. Big Stepper. And I'm here with my co-host.
I am Tiffany B. And we are excited that you're here for an episode of the Stats on Stats podcast, where we get to talk to leaders in cyber, IT, technology spaces. Speaking of those leaders, today we have someone with us, and we would love for him to introduce himself to you, tell us where he's from, where he is currently, what his current role is, and how long he has been in this space. Take it away.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Super excited. Yeah, so I'm Vivek Ramachandran. I'm the founder of SquareX. I've been in cybersecurity over 20 years now. Makes me sound a bit dated. 11 years of that is actually being an entrepreneur. And, started my career at a time when I think cyber wasn't even mainstream. I still remember those were the times when you used to go to DEF CON and there weren't 25, 30,000 people. It was probably still just 2,000 people, maybe 3,000. And interestingly, only folks who are probably very, very interested in cybersecurity research, hacking, breaking into systems, you'd only find, those folks in there at that time. But of course, now things have changed. The world has changed. So, yeah.
So real quick, you said you started doing cybersecurity when you were 10 years old. That's crazy. Wow. That's impressive.
I mean, the crazy thing is I actually got my first computer when I was 19.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, I was born and brought up in India, and at that time, so I'm 43 right now. So 19 is good amount of time. I think almost 24 years back, and that was the time literally that there were no computers in India. So my mother has 6 sisters, and all 6 of them, moved to the US very early on, the New York, New Jersey area, and all of them are doctors. Quite predictable. And so one of my mother's sisters, called her up way back in India, and she said, "Hey, look, my son is using computers, and this is kind of becoming very important in America. I think you should probably get it for, Vivek and Preeti. Preeti is my sister. Interestingly, now she's in Lexington, Kentucky as a doctor. I mean, she's been there for a while. So that is how I got my first computer. And you wouldn't even believe, buying that computer, a compact Presario, cost my dad literally 3 months of his pay. So that was a massive family discussion, a bunch of fights, and I'm glad my mother ended up winning that. And in my whole neighborhood, I was the only guy with a computer. Think about it. So yeah, 19 when I got the first computer.
Wow. So you like instant popularity. Everybody was trying to come over to your house. They're like, let me check out that computer real fast.
Yeah, so people were very, very curious about what it was, and even more crazy is to get an internet connection back in those days in India. It used to actually take 2 months. You had to apply, and then they would give you, the older what they call shell accounts, which you could only check email and things like that. And if you wanted to get the graphics account, which is the whole internet as today, maybe all of you know it, we'd have to pay $300 a month back in those days, 24 years back.
Wow. Real quick, based on math, what is that today? Let's math it. No, we'll do it later. Okay, put it up on the screen later. Overlay it. All right, go ahead.
$2,000, $3,000 maybe.
That's crazy.
Adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, that's crazy. I derailed us.
Well, it's fine. We are learning about Vivek's story. And so with that, tell us what truly got you inspired to work
Yeah.
in this field?
So, I was 19 when I got my first computer. And at that point in time, the only way that you could get into a good engineering college in India, and these are called the Indian Institute of Technologies, was if you sat down and give this very difficult entrance exam where 300,000 people would write it, and they only have seats for 2,000 people. It's that crazy. So during that time, what happened is, I was preparing and I had a computer. So I started looking up the news and all. And this was roughly the time when Yahoo and a bunch of other big sites had been brought down by DDoS attacks. And I started looking up. I was like, hey, what is DDoS, right? Like, I was barely on the internet at that point. And then I read up that there was this hacker going by the name of Mixter who had created this DDoS attack tool suite called Tribal Flood Network. And this is what was used to bring everything down. So, 19-year-old kid, I'm guessing at that time, everybody wants world domination. And I'm thinking,
Yes.
how did one guy with just one tool bring down all of these massive websites? So started searching, finally managed to get hold of the tool because it was open source. And by the way, this was pre-GitHub, pre-GitLab. If you had to go hunt for a source, you had to go to underground forums, you had to search, so many dead ends, right? And by the way, Google wasn't even great back then, because if I remember, Google only came to play in the year 2000, and this was probably 1999, 2000, roughly at that time. So opened up the source code and everything was really alien, right? I look at it and I'm like, hey, what is this? What does all this mean? So the place where I was living, there was, one of the other kids who was first year into his engineering. And he said, Vivek, this is C programming. This is C. And I was like, huh. I was like, what is a programming language? And he said, look, this is the only way that you can make computers understand. So I started teaching myself C programming at that point in time while I was preparing.
Said self-taught.
So and then what happened is, I cracked the Indian Institute of Technology exams. I was lucky enough to be one of those 2,000 kids, which means, your entire education was subsidized by the government, and these were one of the best universities, right? So today, when you guys hear about the CEO of Microsoft, the CEO of Google, all of those guys from India, they all studied in the same 6 or 7 universities, which is the Indian Institute of Technology. So then I go in. And in my batch of 80 people, only 4 people had ever used computers.
Wow.
Right? And this was the time when the university had to give you a computer because it was just so prohibitive for most folks. And I go in and I knew a little bit, you won't even believe, right? First day, me and some of my batchmates enter, and people don't even know how to turn it on because they've never seen a computer.
What?
And here I am, the whiz kid, turns it on, tells people to do this, do that. So then I said, you know what, I need to keep this lead because, when you've just gotten into college and you have something special, you want to keep that. So I started teaching myself more. One thing led to the other. And then in the 3rd year, I applied for a foreign internship. And I managed to get into this university in Zurich called Hochschule für Technik. And they basically told me they wanted to do something in wireless security. And think about it, like I had never seen an access point. There was nothing available. So the professor came and said, well, the only way that we can give you this internship is if you can show us the work that you've done. So I go on the internet, I download and read like 100 papers on wireless LAN security, create a mishmash, write out my own paper based upon all of that. Still haven't seen an access point in my whole life. And then I go send it to him and he's like, oh, this is quite thoughtful. Why don't you come down and do a project? So I get there, he gives me the first laptop I've ever seen in my life with PCM CIA cards. I don't even know if you guys...
Yes.
Okay, those are those long cards which you can put in the slot. And, like those things don't even exist today. So I did the project well to an extent where I solved a lot of their problems. And the professor ended up gifting me that laptop to show his appreciation. And then when I came back, look, young kid, 21 years old, somebody believes in him. That's a very big thing. And then I said, I love this. Let me just go build a career around this. So that's the very scenic journey of how one thing led to the other, and I got into cybersecurity.
So you're a genius. Okay, let me adjust
No,
my posture to be in a room with a genius. Got it. Okay, cool.
no.
Cool.
Oh man, love how you were inspired by a DDoS at Google. It's just kind of everything spiraled from there. But interestingly enough, you not having a computer, like did you find that, you know, being kind of behind on that power curve of having a computer and kind of having that knowledge brought you any challenges that you think back now you're like you were glad that those challenges happened?
Absolutely. So I think, I'm from that generation in India where there was a massive amount of struggle, right? Which is opportunities were very, very few. And if you had to go, get those, then you had to work exceptionally hard, put everything on the line. Your parents did whatever they could to help you out. So I feel, and also back in those days, as I said, there was no GitHub, there were none of these places. So most of what I ended up learning was looking at other people's code, trying to, reverse engineer that. And I felt where that really helped me, Tiffany, is, moving forward, when I actually went into cybersecurity research, I think is almost like second nature because I was so used to tinkering to learn. And that's how, just 4 years later, I ended up doing my very first DEF CON main stage talk. And this was way back in 2007, 17, 18 years back, where I ended up breaking, a wireless encryption mechanism.
What did you say? A wireless encryption mechanism?
Back in those days, WEP, I don't even know if you guys may even remember, or it's even there in access point, wired equivalent privacy. So when Wi-Fi access, I can see both of you giggling. So when Wi-Fi access points and all of those technologies had just come in, it was like the wild, wild west, right? Because in the beginning, there were only these open networks. So people just connected, sent data. So if you had a wireless card in monitoring mode, you could literally see what everybody was doing. And keep in mind, this was also the time that SSL wasn't as, kind of prevalent as it is today, right? Everything was HTTP, or at least most of it was. At that time, I think they had come up with this encryption scheme for Wi-Fi, and they called it WEP, or Wired Equivalent Privacy. And it had been there for a while and people had broken it. But then this company called Air Defense came up with this cloaking mechanism where they said, look, we can actually help you safeguard WEP. And they called it WEP cloaking. And I used to work for a wireless intrusion detection system at that company at that time. And they said, Vivek, try to see if you can break it. And if you can, you know what? We will allow you to submit this to DEF CON. And if it gets accepted, we'll actually pay the airfare accommodation for you to go to America and present. So I think for those 2 months, I literally lived and, kind of like breathed in the office, did a lot of research, managed to break in, submitted it to DEF CON. And that was really like 17 years back when I actually came to America, which is the company ended up saying, look, now go present the talk.
I was going to say a lot of this actually sounds like a build up to what you're currently doing.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you mind? Because I'm like, wow, what an interesting. Okay, it directly correlates. I'm sorry, I'm just like impressed by so many little things. But do you mind telling us a little bit about your current company, giving us a little bit of insight? I don't want to spoil it for people. I'm gonna let you talk about it.
Yeah. So I think the current company that I'm doing, SquareX, in that what we are doing is going ahead and building, a browser native security product which can detect, block, and allow you to threat hunt web attacks happening on your employees. And that's just the fancy way of basically saying, look, today people are spending 90% of their times on the web browser, pretty much doing all their work, maybe 10% in applications like Outlook. And attackers understand that, now if they wanted to target employees, steal credentials, steal data, the gateway to all of that attacks is also the web browser. And that is really what SquareX is building, is a browser extension which serves as a security product, which sits in the browser, looks at everything which is going on, and then detects and blocks attacks in real time.
Like what prompted you're a guy who does so much research and like really dives into something that you're curious about. What really drove you to decide that this was going to be your thing? This was the defense mechanism that you were going to create.
Yeah. Just kind of rewinding a little bit, The first few years I had done cybersecurity research, and very quickly I figured like there was no real job opportunity in 2010, 2011 for cybersecurity research. So I decided to quit my job, go back to my parents' home. And that's when I started this free site called securitytube.net, where I started putting up lectures. And what happened is people from all over the world started coming in and they said, Vivek, could you come us to teach? So one thing led to the other. And that's when I created, my previous company, Pentester Academy, which got acquired. But in Pentester Academy, I spent a lot of times talking to red blue teams around the world. So, all the top banks, financial institutions, government agencies, they were all customers. So at that time, Tiffany, what happened is we basically got a very inside view of how attacks were happening, what teams were worried about. And then I got that feedback saying, we find that a lot of attackers are being targeting employees of the company, getting malware, ransomware through the browser onto the endpoint and all of these attacks happening. So that's when the aha moment kind of came in where I said, if you look at security products today, you have endpoint security, right, which is antivirus on steroids, and you have cloud security, but no one's actually doing anything on the web browser, which is actually the gateway to everything in and out of your computer today. So that was the aha moment where I said, hey, why don't we build something into the browser itself? And that's how, one thing led to the other.
I'm sitting here in shock. Sorry, I really am somebody who's like impressed by like little things. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. But let's see. I know I have some really, really pointed questions I'm supposed to ask you. So,
okay.
All right. So, your company previously developed a monitoring product sold to defense agencies. What were the unique challenges and successes associated with this product?
Yeah, so I think this was around 2013 when Wi-Fi 802.11 AC networks had just come. And these were high-speed networks, but there weren't any products available to monitor these networks because the infrastructure guys had still not built in all those features. So what had happened is a lot of defense agencies, think about diplomatic security as an example, right? Let's say you go somewhere, you want to scan the air to make sure that, what is the wireless device exposure around that place, right? Are there any devices that you ideally wouldn't want? Maybe there's some kind of a, microphone over Wi-Fi, things like that. So I got a request from, multiple agencies. I won't name them. I mean, everybody probably knows who they are. And they basically said, hey, Vivek, you've been doing Wi-Fi for a while. You authored a couple of books. Could you build us this monitoring device? And of course, no one can build hardware that fast, right? So what I did is we took off-the-shelf Ubiquiti Wi-Fi access points, but then we ended up building custom firmware which would run on those devices and then unlock those devices so that you could convert an access point into a full-blown monitoring device. So the key challenge there was, there is no roadmap, right? Once you get that device, you have to now figure out, what's going on. How do you put your firmware on it? How do you ensure that firmware can play ball with the hardware? How do you unlock different channels? How do you get that data? And then how do you siphon the data out of the device so that now you could give something like a Wireshark almost to an extent for people to monitor what is happening over the network and all of that. So, Jordan, at that point in time, that was my very first key learning, moving from a researcher mindset to a product builder mindset. And I'll tell you, there is a very big difference, right? When we do security research, we have a very proof of concept mindset, right? We just go in and say, look, here's this. I'm going to run Metasploit. I'm going to do a few scripts. And there you go, right? I was able to break in. I was able to pen test, But when you're building a product, your product has to work no matter, what the odd case that it might end up encountering. Your product can't fail. A proof of concept script can fail. So I think it taught me a lot about how to move from just building proof of concepts to a solid engineered product, which will always work predictably. And I think that was my very big break into building products.
So since you've started building products and, getting a little bit more acclimated to that process, how many Avengers have you supported? He's like, what? I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Vivek,
he's like, that was stupid.
I was just trying to think for a second. It was, Avengers a proxy for something, but yeah.
No, no, legit. The Avengers, Iron Man, Spider-Man. Yeah, go ahead.
So while you're talking, you mentioned two things that I wanted to ask you a question. The first is you said that you learned a lot of things when shifting from the mindset of researcher to like program or developer, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Could you give us kind of some of the things that you learned when you made that shift?
Yeah. So I think, when you're a researcher, you can be a lone wolf, right? You can work on your own, you can do things, you can try things out. But when you build a product, I think teams build products. And that was a very big jump for me because I wasn't really much of a people's person back in those days. I just wanted to be left alone, just do my thing, and then go out and just talk about it. So it took me a lot of learning to assemble a team, to, kind of like mentor people, uh, where I could get the best out of them. And I think that to me was a very big personal learning, like more from a soft skills perspective. From a technology perspective, I think what I learned was that when you're building a product, that's a full end to end, kind of like a massive endeavor where so many things can go wrong. So I think I used to lack a lot of patience, to be honest, right? I used to write these proof of concept scripts and, high five myself in the.
Sorry, she's looking. I also lack patience. Go ahead, especially when it comes to tech. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I used to lack a lot of patience where, like as soon as I used to get something working, I'd just high five myself and say, you know what, I'm done. But when you're doing products, you can't do that. So it was very frustrating to go through the whole grind where, people would come back and say, here is a bug, you have to go fix it. This isn't working, go fix it. And, there were days where I told myself, why the hell did I even pick this up, right? Like I was so happy just teaching and doing my proof of concepts. So, Tiffany, I think for me, the greatest learning, I mean, the tech aside, was how to go ahead and build something which takes a massive amount of patience, perseverance, and teamwork. How to work with people from very diverse backgrounds and still get the best out of them. And making sure that, of course, all of them also work with each other properly, right? It's not just about me getting along with the team, but the team getting along with each other as well.
I have another question. It's really
Yeah.
unconventional for what we usually do, but
Sure.
wins is something like we celebrate wins when we get to the end goal, right? I
Right.
was building this product and it's there and it's successful. I
Yeah.
would like to know during your time of creating this product, what are some small wins or what might have felt like small wins at the time that you
Yeah.
look back and you're like, for you, it's amazing that you had these small wins during the process that helped you to be able to make it to your end goal.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a great point and something I always love about talking, which is, I have a very contrarian view. I mean, as you said, right, a lot of people want to wait till the very end, and that's the only time that you get to clap and celebrate. But I have a very contrarian view on that. I actually feel that you should celebrate every small thing. You should celebrate every win. And the big reason for that is actually that's the only thing which can keep you motivated over a long period, right? At the very same time, I would say when you work with your team, understand that if you feel that's a bad day, it's probably going to compound more on them as well. So one of the things I've learned over the years is very, very important to appreciate, celebrate small wins. So to come back to now your question, I think when this defense agency came to me and they basically said, Vivek, can you build this product for us? Honestly, that day was massive celebration because when does one of the most well-known defense agencies ever come to an individual, right, who was basically just giving hacker talks at DEF CON, and teaching folks and say, could you build us a product? You won't believe how many people I showed that email to.
I love that. I love that.
Aww.
Right. And then post that, of course, once we started building it, there were so many smaller challenges because, I had gone to one of the Wi-Fi manufacturers and I told them, could you help us where you could give us a little bit more information? And they said, look, you're too small to matter. Unfortunately, we can't help you. So, and fair enough, business is business. I wouldn't go question that. But then I think for me, the greatest win was I was able to sit down. So I ended up buying like these 10 to 15 different access points from every manufacturer out there. And here I am like unscrewing each one of them to look at what is the chipset, what firmware is there. And this took me like 15 to 20 days. Like I had to kind of go through this list as a maniac. And then finally, I was like, okay, Ubiquiti uses OpenWRT. And OpenWRT's source code is available online, which means I can take a look at it and figure something out. That was a day I celebrated because I'm like, okay, now things just got real. Right? So that was a big motivator for me. And I think from there on, Tiffany, what I started doing is, look, I think I've been in cybersecurity, been an entrepreneur long enough to understand that if you wait too long to celebrate, you make the journey horrible. And, no journey which is painful for too long is something which will motivate you to carry on.
I know, and Anthony and I have spoken about this before too, but like when you have your own product or your own vision about something, sometimes it's hard to share that with other people in terms of delegation, right? Because you're like, in my mind, I know exactly what it looks like. I know exactly how it's supposed to be from start to finish. But, you're at a point where you have to, kind of delegate. So how do you effectively share your vision with other people so that at the end it's executed exactly how you saw it in your mind?
Yeah. So that's a great question, actually. I can tell you anybody who's very good at their craft is unfortunately someone who in the very beginning is going to be very bad at delegation, right? Because you want things to be done your way, a certain way. You kind of feel, this is the right way. And of course, when you start delegating, you see that falling apart in every conceivable manner, right? And that is the point when, you tend to get a lot frustrated. You're like, you know what, this. So I think I struggled with it, truth be told. So in the very beginning, what used to happen is I used to end up hiring folks and I used to say, why don't you build me this today? And they would bring it back and I would start nitpicking every small thing as like, no, this isn't right, that isn't right, do it this way, do it that way. And of course they did. It was a great learning experience for them. But I very quickly figured out that I think the number one, thing that you have to realize around delegation is it isn't going to be exactly like you want, but hold on, it can actually sometimes get better. And let me explain why. People who micromanage delegation, and it'll happen to everybody in the very beginning, I think what tends to happen is you kill the creativity that the other person can bring. Because very soon what tends to happen is they're like, let's just do it like Vivek wants it. Right? Why the hell are we even thinking? Vivek, what do you want me to do? You do want me to do this? Okay, I'm going to go do that for you. Right? So I started realizing that by doing that, I was not getting, kind of like that diverse, varied input. I was killing people's creativity. So what I started instead doing is I used to give people a very high level objective. And I basically say, look, can you build me this? Come back and tell me how you would do it.
I like that.
So yeah, what tends to happen, Jordan, at that point is you are kind of giving a sense of ownership to people. And I think the moment someone feels that they own something, the level at which they would want that project to win kind of completely changes. And then what I do is when they come back to me and say, look, this is how I'd like to do it. I say, look, this is smart. Would you consider probably changing these parts? And here is why I think why. You know what? These are just my cursory observations. I'm sure you've thought through this. Tell me why you think what I'm saying is a good or a bad idea. So what I've learned over the years is effective delegation. So the word delegation, at least in my humble view, in a way, can also sound a bit condescending at times, right? Because
Yes.
you're like, look, I'm going to delegate this task to you, go get that done. Instead, I've started looking at more as an opportunity to collaborate. So the moment you tell somebody, I'm not delegating, I'm collaborating with you, I think they feel that they have an equal seat at the table. I mean, previously Pentester Academy, the time when I sold it, we almost had like 50, 55 people, reasonably large operation for a small company at that point in time. And SquareX right now in just the 14 months, we already are at 28 people. So to your question, the thing that I've learned over the years is try to be collaborative. Don't try to make it delegated in a way where people feel like you want to own every decision. Because trust me, over a long period, that's actually bad. You know, everything will go ahead and bubble up to you, and you will feel so overwhelmed that you will not be able to compound anymore. And to build anything big, you have to go ahead and compound on other people's capabilities, not yours.
You hear that, Anthony? It's called collaboration, not delegation. I love that. Thank you. That was really insightful. Thank you.
I actually wanted to know, like, what if somebody wanted to know more about SquareX, and I'll say my grandma or my mom or my cousin, and how SquareX can help them on the web, what would you tell them?
Yeah. I mean, my elevator pitch to non-technical folks is, are you afraid of getting hacked online? Your bank account probably, going ahead and getting siphoned out, or somebody, stealing something from your computer. If you're worried about all of that, SquareX can help you there. All you have to do is you already use your Chrome browser or Safari or something, go to our website, single click, and we add that protection.
Well, what about their mobile phones?
Yeah. So interestingly, SquareX will also work on mobile Edge, mobile Safari, and all of those as well. So you can go install it, on mobile browsers as well.
My grandma needs that.
Yeah, and really that's kind of where that question came from, because recently we were looking at something on one of her devices, and she was like, I think I got hacked. And I'm looking at it, and I get to the browser because I'm like, show me what you see. And I look at the browser, and there's a pop-up that says, on her iPad, there's a pop-up that says, you have a virus, your Microsoft account, call this number. And she didn't click anything, right?
Yeah.
But just for me, when I think about your product, I think about grandma, I think about mom, I think about my sisters who they don't know cybersecurity. They don't know IT, period. And so how do we show them that this can be a product that could be useful for them?
And Tiffany, to add to that, right, one of the first things I did is actually install this on my own dad and mom's computer. Because when I look at my dad surf the internet, almost feels like he's driving a Ferrari at 400 miles, like an hour. He's just clicking, going to random places, downloading whatever he feels like. So you're right. I mean, and honestly, the big reason we created SquareX in this way was we just felt like security products should be seamless and transparent to the user experience. And, not something where you literally have to be a security person to be able to use it. So I think we put usability as one of our North Stars when we were building the product.
Real quick, if you were asked, this is the scenario, if you were approached by a student, right? Somebody, they're young, it's the year 2050, you're in the cafeteria, which at this point is actually like a Fogo de Chao. They walk up to you and they're like, Mr. Vivek, I want to be in cybersecurity. What advice would you give to that child?
I think, every 10 years, things have been drastically changing, to be honest, right? Like, and I said, now I'm probably in my third decade. The main advice I would give you is, do you find yourself being genuinely curious about technology and genuinely curious about how things work and how they could be broken? And the reason I always ask that as a superseding question is, I guess if you are able to check the boxes there, then cybersecurity is something you can get into, because cybersecurity is a second order function, right? No matter what new technology comes in, there's going to be a cybersecurity angle to it, which means to be good at cybersecurity, you have to be inquisitive, not just about like base tech. You now have to learn the security aspect of it. And that's a lot of work. And the only way that I've found like people succeed over the long run is if they're very curious, they love tinkering, and they love trying to break things and make them do stuff that they weren't supposed to. And I mean, motivation, your real motivation, if it kind of fits into that, and then based upon that, that's literally what I tell them is, hey, look, that's my litmus test. If you feel you're this, go for cybersecurity. Technologies will change. And that's honestly what I love about cyber, right? if you remember, like a couple of years back, barely 2 years back, everybody was talking crypto and blockchains. No one's talking about that now,
He's
right?
not wrong.
Yeah. Unless, of course, you still have some of that Bitcoin stashed away somewhere, which you bought like 10 years back. And today everybody's talking about AI. But even now, you keep hearing about like, people's crypto wallets get stolen. You hear about like how AI can be abused and whatnot, right? So the security aspect always lives on. And that's the beauty of this field is, if you get into security early on, you know what, all you have to do is follow a technology curve, see where it is going, learn the security aspect of it, you're always relevant. Unlike you being a blockchain expert or a crypto expert, where now you're like, I'm out of a job and I just need to figure out what is the next thing to do.
Solid.
That's facts. I feel like we could actually compile a bunch of clips together of people giving similar advice to, you have to be genuinely curious about it, right? Because it feels like there's a very huge like narrative. Oh, it pays six figures. It pays six figures. Well, you can't buy interest, right? You can't make yourself interested in something, and you can't be good at it if you're not interested. So I feel like we need to put clips together for the season.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point, right? Like, honestly, I've never found someone who came into security purely from the perspective of, getting a great job, being great at it, because very soon that person ends up realizing is the learning curve never stops, right? You have to learn like the new tech, the new ways that hackers are breaking in. Because look, what is new learning? Let's say, you were deploying a CRM product. All you'd had to do is go learn salesforce.com, be a Salesforce consultant, and you just have to wait for Salesforce to drop like a very big update for you to update your knowledge, right? But in cybersecurity, attackers are creating new attacks every day, which means you have to go learn that, figure out how to defend. And that means your learning is literally on a daily basis if you want to be, one of the best in the business. So very, very high on the learning curve when it comes to cybersecurity, and fairly steep curve. Like I spend at least 3 to 4 hours reading articles every single day. And even I feel overwhelmed because there's so much to learn and, to see.
How do you foster that that I guess growth mindset at your organization?
So I think, the best way to test someone's learning is actually to ask them a lot of counter questions. And the best way to go ahead and foster that mindset within an organization is to do that from day zero. So what I do in every single meeting I have with tech folks and even the non-technical folks is I always ask them questions. Someone comes to me and says, okay, we built this feature this way. And I'm like, okay, what attack is it solving? Have you thought about that attack? Tell me, how does that solve that? So slowly what starts to happen is people realize that before we are going to have a conversation with Vivek, we better know what we are talking about. We better fully understand everything, because or else he's going to, ask enough questions and poke holes where it would look like, we didn't do this as systematically as we should have. So to your point, the best way is to force everybody to be curious enough, because they know you're going to ask an oddball question, which would kind of end up poking holes. And that's literally what I do right now in the company, right? I used to write code in my previous company, which I created. But in this one, all I do is ask questions. I just walk in and say, guys, let's have a chat and tell me what you built, and I'd love to talk. And same goes with the GTM team as well. Like right before this podcast yesterday, I was talking to Junis, who reached out to you, and I said, Junis, tell me everything you know about Jordan and Tiffany. So the interesting thing is, when you do that enough number of times, I think people almost start to anticipate it, and that always fosters like a learning culture. So look, we currently, as I said, around 26 to 28 people, 13 to 14 of them are, marketing, GTM, and all of that. You won't believe, in our company, everyone has to know how to demo the product to anybody. It's mandatory. So Junis, who was speaking to you, and she came into the company to run PR, and day 3, I'm like, have you tried using the product, and have you tried configuring it? And she's like, oh, am I supposed to also do that? I was like, 100%. I don't want anyone in the company not to know how to use this product, not to be able to demo it to someone. So I think a large part of culture is, you have to have some forcing functions, but they have to be based on something people genuinely feel that they are learning and uplifting, who they are, right? I mean, any place that you work with, when you go out, you should have become a better version, at least in some dimension. So I think, yeah, I mean, like that's the way that I've kind of done it the last few years. You guys are going to meet a lot of folks from my team, right? Like I think around 6 or 7 of them are coming both to Black Hat and DEF CON. So you should ask them how it is to work with Vivek.
Oh, I've already noted that this is going to be a question that I have. So I have to bring up DEF CON before we run out of time. So I'm going to read this perfectly. On Friday, August 9th, you're giving a DEF CON main stage talk titled Breaking Secure Web Gateways for Fun and Profit. Could you share more on that?
When we started building this company and product at that time, what we found was when it comes to web security, which is, protecting all the traffic coming from your browsers, there is this old industry guard, which is secure web gateways, which are nothing but SSL proxies running in the cloud. And these proxies try to look at network traffic and deduce application layer attacks. I mean, so you can already see the problem with that. But what happened is, the largest companies in the world, and this is currently like a $50 billion market, deploy this technology. So many enterprises end up using this. Now, my roots have always been that of an attacker, right? I mean, I've done research, I've broken systems and all of that. So when I was building this and I was speaking to one of my prospective clients and he says, Vivek, we use web proxies. We use these secure web gateways. And you know what? That solves everything. I was like, that is suspicious, because I was like, how does a network traffic monitoring device figure out application attacks so well? So then I started looking it up a lot more, understanding what the technology was. And then I figured that there were some fundamental architectural flaws. And what SWGs or secure web gateways are supposed to do is, let's say you click on a piece of, click on anything to download. They will cache that in the cloud, run their AV scanners. And if feels like that is a piece of malware or ransomware, then they will block it. If not, they will allow it, right? Sounds fantastic, sounds amazing from a security perspective. But then I basically said, look, this should be fairly easy for attackers to beat. And here's the way that I looked at the attack. And here's kind of like a sneak preview. I'll give your audience an analogy, and then I'll tell you exactly what the attack is. So today, if somebody, kind of placed a handgun in the check-in baggage through an airport, it's going to show up in the scanner, right? But now imagine somebody 3D prints a gun, breaks it up into different parts, and there are 10 people on the same plane who take each part. Now that's not going to show up on the scanner because it doesn't look like a gun. But on the plane, they can go assemble it, right? I'm not trying to scare all of you. But this is exactly the way last mile reassembly attacks work. So here's what we do. Imagine the same malicious ransomware file, but now what the attacker is doing is breaking it up into pieces, but making it part of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So these secure web gateways don't even feel that a file download is in progress. And then on the victim side, when that web page opens up, using JavaScript, he reassembles the file and drops it. So the victim's experience is literally like they clicked on a download and something ended up downloading. But the secure web gateways were completely bypassed in between. And and one can imagine the repercussion. So we have created around 25 to 30 bypasses, and that ends up affecting every single vendor in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. I mean, I'm guessing people wouldn't call it a Magic Quadrant after the talk, hopefully.
That's what I'm like this. That's why we're both like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I know something I'm not supposed to. Wow.
So that's what the talk is about. Super excited. I guess, DEF CON main stage is always an honor. So yeah, like looking forward to it and creating some chaos in the world.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome. Actually, yeah, we gotta check that one out for sure. We're supposed to congratulate you. See, I totally forgot about some of this, but congratulations on joining the Black Hat Arsenal Review Board. What is?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
But honestly, what is that?
So Black Hat has this, little section which happens in the exhibition area, which they call Arsenal. And that is really where people from around the world can come in and show the security tools that they've been building. So all of these folks who've been building attack tools, defense tools, and all of that. As crazy as it is, it's hyper competitive. So for a Black Hat USA, you will have around 400 to 500 people submit just to get into, I think, 25 slots. So, I've been doing this for a while. And when the organizers requested me to be on the board, I was like, okay, I mean, like, this is something I love doing. Yeah, I mean, like, I myself get to learn a lot because, when you hear about what people are building, that's something which turns some gears in your own mind as well. And yeah, so that's what Black Hat Arsenal is, and being on the review board is. It's a lot of painful work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it sounds really important. So I'd imagine it'd be painful. But like,
Yeah.
I want to point out like what a beautiful experience, right? Because it sounds like based on what you've told us, you've been going to DEF CON since it was a smaller event, right?
Yeah.
So like what a beautiful experience to go from, hey, I'm at this event, it's cool, I get to hang out with like-minded people to, being on
Right.
this review board. Like how many people attend now?
Yeah.
Like 30,000, 40,000 you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like around 400 people submit for talks. But yeah, I think, Jordan, it's also about giving back. I feel like, I've personally received a lot from this community. Started off pretty much with nothing, and when I created my first company, the entire community supported me. People bought my courses. And all of these were folks who went to DEF CON and Black Hat and, I mean, like folks from all over the world, actually, 140 countries. I mean, I hadn't even met many of these guys. And I feel like it's important to kind of like look at that and kind of give back. I mean, you won't even believe the first time when I put out a video course to everybody and I said, look, I'd love to sell it. There were so many great folks who came in and said, Vivek, love to support you. There were also people who came in and said, hey, you sound like Apu from The Simpsons.
What?
And all of this was, yeah,
What?
online. Yeah. So, but at the very same time, I just kept going. And all I've kind of discovered is all you need is out of 100 people that see your work, even if 10 of them appreciate and that compounds, over time, that builds you a great business, that builds you a great reputation. And yeah, I mean, I owe my entire career to the cybersecurity hacker community, right? These were the guys who supported me. These were the guys who were all our early customers. I mean, I was just a shy kid from India, just sitting in my, room and working. So, and Black Hat Arsenal and many of these things is just my way of giving back.
That's amazing.
I've invested in a lot of cybersecurity companies as well, where founders have created something and they come to me and say, Vivek, would you like to invest? And to me, it's like, hey, look, this is a community I love, I respect, and I want more and more people to get in and, kind of like grow and benefit.
Like on behalf of whoever said goofy stuff like that, they were way out of pocket. So thank you for continuing. Thank you for like seriously, because that's geez.
Yeah. No, but over a long period, I've realized that, look, if you are doing something worthwhile, there will be people, who will hate you for it. And I think, over time, what I figured out is I don't spend any time looking at any hateful comment. I mean, I just block folks at the slightest hint because I'm like, hey, there is so little time. The only thing I want to spend it on is, compounding everything that I kind of want, right? So that's always been helpful. And I always say this as a joke, and I'll tell you why. Because I look back and I say, hey, I mean, probably that guy is still trolling around in, back then forums and now maybe Instagram. But, a lot of the folks that he's trolled probably, went along and did something worthwhile. So, yeah.
Yeah, right on. I love that. That's dope. So we got a rapid fire closeout. So our last question, do you want to ask Burnout?
Oh, I'm like, there are a couple of questions we have to rapid fire.
Oh, we have to rapid fire? Oh, go ahead. Okay, this is rapid fire to close out. Go.
What do you do, Vivek, to keep yourself grounded?
I think always remind myself of my roots and where I started. I started with nothing. And I always tell myself, like, should be prepared to maybe go back there, if things don't work out.
Okay. Be fearless online. Where'd that come from?
So I think a lot of security tools talk about like we defend you. And I just felt it was very defensive, while being an offensive guy basically said, look, true security is when you can be fearless. And that's how we kind of came up with that slogan is like, hey, be fearless online, which is if you are fearless, you aren't worried. And that actually means your security is well taken care of.
Awesome.
I'm gonna get that tattooed right here. So when I see you, it's gonna say that. Go ahead.
Vivek, what is next for you individually, and what is next for SquareX?
I think for me individually is definitely going to be, I mean, I'm trying to separate it out from, SquareX's destination. I think now for me individually is probably just to be a great father, kind of like mentor my children, see what I can do for them. And for SquareX, of course, is, I think it's just been 14 months. We've done fantastic. Some of the world's biggest brands are starting to use us now. So I think, yeah, SquareX, I'd like to run it for the long haul and basically, hopefully, it becomes, one of those cornerstone cybersecurity companies.
Are you open to connecting with people following this interview?
Yeah. Absolutely.
How
Absolutely. I
can
think,
people get in touch with you?
yeah, people can, I mean, like if any of your listeners have questions or, want any advice, I'm basically Vivek at sqrx.com, Vivek at sqrx.com. You can connect to me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, other places as well. Twitter is easier. LinkedIn, unfortunately, I've been so happy-go-lucky. I've accepted so many connections that I keep hitting my 30,000 maximum.
Oh,
And then I have to go back and unfortunately boot out a couple of people to make room for more.
Wow.
So LinkedIn, you might see it takes me time to go ahead and accept your invites. Twitter is easy, email is easy. Yeah, I don't even know why LinkedIn has that, right? Like, and I was one of the early adopters of LinkedIn when it came in. So, I mean, I've hit my 30,000 max people that you're allowed to connect to.
Oh, okay. Well, we're all built different. We all have different issues. Your issue is different from my issue. but awesome. Well, thank you so much. Like this was awesome. This was amazing. Thank you so much for taking your time and spending your energy with us. We genuinely appreciate it. We know time is currency, so we hope you leave here and you feel like yours was well spent today.
Yeah, I mean, and thank you so much, Jordan, Tiffany. Really appreciate your time as well. And yeah, it was a great, amazing conversation. And if you guys are coming over to DEF CON, definitely go ahead, come down, say hi to us. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I think it was a pretty fun talk. It was good that, we probably did not stick to the usual questions about the company and all of that. It's much more fun talking about other aspects of cybersecurity. And I guess, you guys kept the whole conversation very engaging and a lot of fun. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you again. Like we learned a lot, so we appreciate you. Peace out, listeners.
See you next time.